Okay, so the whole a From Software game constantly pushing you down until you get back up thing has been around for a while, but like many, Elden Ring was and currently still is my first Souls game. I've been consistently keeping up with gaming since I was little, and I'd heard phrases like get good thrown around every once in a while, but I just didn't really think about it too much. That was until I played Elden Ring for the first time in early 2022, around a month after release. So I'd heard it was exceptional, maybe even one of the best games of the generation, and so I figured I might as well try it out myself and see what the hype was about. I didn't particularly realise what I was in for, but I dove right in, no preparation on YouTube or Reddit beforehand or anything like that. And so out I came a few weeks later, having finished the game. A significant takeaway for me is people really weren't exaggerating when they say that you'll often get lost, and on the way of finding your path, you'll get brutally murdered more times than you can possibly count. And so that brings me on to the main topic of the video, how Elden Ring goes about teaching you numerous aspects of the game without actually giving much away, instead relying on the player's intelligence and patience to guide them. A perfect starting point is at the beginning of the game, well, twice at the beginning, but you'll see what I mean in a sec. You wake up in a lovely little church, frolicking your way over a bridge, when all of a sudden you get interrupted by this creature? It's a grafted scion, and quite quickly it'll slice you up, and that's you done. Now, this is likely to be within the first minute or two of you starting a save file. The most you'll have done is just walk, jump, and flail about a bit. One would think it's quite rude to have that pause so suddenly, but it teaches you something that'll be reinforced just a few minutes later, and then consistently throughout the game, and that is the fact that you are not special. You will face enemies much stronger than you, and all you can hope to do for the time being is just survive a few extra seconds longer than you did last time. But okay, unless you make another save file, this is a one and done fight until you meet more grafted scions later in the game. So with that being said, what's the thing that reinforces this lesson even better? Well, I'm sure you all know him very well by now and have become best of friends. The tree sentinel standing just outside the tutorial area is a great way to start off the game, as it teaches you a lot without actually spelling any of it out to you. What it arguably teaches best is two things. You don't need to fight everything you see, and coming back another time when you're more prepared and geared is often a better option. Now, sure, on subsequent playthroughs I've had dozens of attempts trying to kill it at level 1 until I eventually succeed, but on my first playthrough I simply wasn't good enough, and I had to swallow my pride and accept I wasn't going to be killing it for a little while. This is then hammered home until the end of the game. You'll often come across a boss in a dungeon or one of the main story bosses, and they will tear you to shreds, and that's okay. The game rewards you regardless of what you do, as engaging every time for hours and brute forcing an encounter will eventually, hopefully, have you memorising most attacks and attack patterns, meaning you become better at both killing that specific boss and just also becoming better at the game. Then, if you're someone else who wants a bit of an easier time, it is also valid to kill enemies you're easily capable of beating until you get to a point where a boss is relatively easy and mistakes on your end won't be punished as much. One other important thing FromSoftware does in Elden Ring is trust that players will explore, and reward them for doing so. The game teaches you that hitting random walls and doing completely random stuff at one end of the map and trying to find hidden spots at the other will reward you with both new enemies, rewards, and areas to explore. One of the better examples of this is the Halig Tree. Now, admittedly, it is a very difficult area to find without any external help, but some did manage, and others like myself found tidbits online to see if we could go to that location ourselves, and we could. To someone who played Elden Ring more casually and kinda just blazed through the main story and never played again, the Halig Tree is something they'd not even remotely know the existence of, and yet it's a monumental area in size, holding a very infamous boss to say the least. FromSoftware are known for doing this, not just in Elden Ring but in their previous games too, although as far as I can tell, it's most prevalent here. As most of you would know, there's a whole underground section of the map that most people will typically find, as there's a few entrances, but there's still a chance they may not see it, or at least all of it for that matter. Most games, and understandably so to at least some extent, do try to reward exploration in some way, shape or form and have it be so that the player isn't missing out on much. After all, game development takes a long time, and it may feel discouraging or like a waste of time if a lot of content won't be discovered by many. Still, Elden Ring takes that risk, and I think it paid off massively, as its teaching and exploration is more rewarding than most games, even though half the time you might not know where you're going, NPC instructions are vague at best, and there's significantly less quest markers in comparison to other open world games. My last point I want to quickly brush up on loosely ties back to the first one in that you are taught how to be patient. Now, luckily, I'm a pretty patient person in general anyway, but aside from some rare exceptions where it seems you get killed for some inexplicable reason that you had no counter for, I had so much fun dying over and over in Elden Ring. Most games will have it so dying will be a little frustrating and it can sour your interest, but for this I knew that 99% of the time how things went was just completely in my hands, and so I think that just taught me to relax more, as essentially every time you die you learn something new. Now, Elden Ring isn't perfect in this aspect. There are some enemies that can be very difficult to deal with that teeter far more on the tedious side rather than one that's just a skill issue. But for the most part you'll be constantly learning, and at least for me, that's created a really healthy experience around a game that's probably one of the most difficult I've ever played. So that leaves me here, in a weird state. I actually don't know very much about Elden Ring. I mean, very little of the lore has actually stuck in my head, and whilst there are some difficult bosses I now kill with ease, I still kinda suck and I'm just not very good. With that being said, since I first played Elden Ring, I've only adopted the mindset from that into other games where it's applicable, and it's made gaming as a whole a lot easier on my mind. Unfortunately, this does mean for a lot of games they don't live up to the same standards, and I can feel slightly let down, but that's not a problem I concern myself with often. Elden Ring is great, and I think a lot can be learned from it. FromSoftware did an amazing job, and if you haven't yet, I highly recommend picking up the game if possible. Anyway, I think that's everything, so I appreciate you watching to the end, and I hope to see you again.